The human was lied to. Now the alien queen says he must marry her and raise the princess. From the small shuttle, he could see floating cities glimmering in the sunlight, suspended above forests that stretched endlessly. Towering trees with glowing leaves swayed gently, even though there was no wind. Strange creatures moved gracefully among them, their translucent wings sparkling like diamonds. Everything about this planet screamed beauty and intelligence. He had trained for years for this moment. As Earth's representative, he knew his mission was simple: meet the leaders of Zarathis, learn about their culture, and establish diplomatic ties. But now, looking at the grandeur of this alien world, Ethan felt a mixture of excitement and unease. There was something in the air, a subtle tension he could not explain. The shuttle landed gently on a platform that seemed to float in midair. Lights beneath the surface created a soft glow, guiding the shuttle to a stop. Ethan stepped out, adjusting his suit and taking a deep breath. The air was different here, crisp yet strangely sweet, like a forest after a rainstorm mixed with a faint metallic scent. "Welcome, Ethan of Earth," said a soft voice behind him. Ethan turned to see a tall figure approaching. Her presence was immediately commanding, yet comforting. She wore flowing robes that shimmered like liquid silver. Her skin had a slight pearlescent glow, and her eyes reflected the colors of the floating city around them. "I am Queen Lyria," she said, bowing slightly. "We are honored by your visit." Ethan bowed politely. "The honor is mine, Your Majesty. Zarathis is remarkable." Queen Lyria smiled. "Thank you, but I must speak frankly. Our meeting is not only ceremonial. There is a matter of great importance I must discuss with you." Ethan's heart skipped. He had prepared for discussions about trade, technology, and interstellar cooperation, not something of great importance that sounded ominous. The Queen led him through a series of corridors that seemed alive. The walls shimmered with shifting patterns, almost like they were breathing. Ethan marveled at the architecture, which blended natural elements with advanced technology in a way he had never imagined. Finally, they entered a room filled with light. In the center stood an ornate chair, empty, but clearly meant for someone of high status. Queen Lyria turned to him with a solemn expression. "Ethan, you have been lied to," she said. "Your journey here was based on incomplete information. There is an ancient pact between our species, one that requires you to marry me and help raise the Princess of Zarathis." Ethan froze. His mind raced. Marry her? Princess? He had no idea such a thing existed. His mission briefings from Earth had mentioned nothing about this. He had been deceived. I don't understand," he stammered. "I came here as an ambassador. I was not told anything about a pact or marriage." Queen Lyria's eyes softened. "That is true. Your people were not honest with you. Some leaders feared this information would make humans hesitant to come. But the truth is clear. The survival and prosperity of our people depend on this union. It is not a romantic marriage, Ethan. It is ceremonial. You will guide and teach our princess, preparing her to lead Zarathis wisely." Ethan blinked, trying to process the words. Ceremonial or not, this was far from what he had expected. Yet, as he looked at Queen Lyria, he saw no deceit, only honesty, wisdom, and urgency. "Ceremonial, so I'm not supposed to, fall in love?" he asked, his voice uncertain. The Queen chuckled softly. "No, Ethan, your task is not love, it is guidance. Our princess needs a human perspective, a mentor to help her understand your world and the worlds beyond. That is all. You will be respected for your knowledge and compassion, not for romance." Ethan exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. While the situation was unexpected, it was not impossible. He had spent his life learning, teaching, and understanding others. Perhaps he could help this young princess, and in doing so, create a bridge between Earth and Zarathis. Queen Lyria motioned for him to sit. "There is much to explain. You must understand the history, the tradition, and the responsibility you are about to accept." Ethan nodded. He took a seat on a floating platform that adjusted perfectly to his weight. A holographic display materialized before them, showing the sprawling landscapes of Zarathis, its floating cities, and intricate ecosystems. "Our ancestors formed a pact long before your species traveled the stars," Queen Lyria began. "It was meant to ensure the survival of our royal line and the wisdom of our leaders. Whenever a human visited Zarathis for the first time, it was believed that their guidance would prepare our heirs for interstellar cooperation. Your presence here is the continuation of that tradition." Ethan listened carefully. He realized that what seemed absurd at first was rooted in a logic he could understand. Zarathis had survived for millennia because of careful planning, intelligence, and the wisdom of its leaders. Having a human mentor for their princess was their way of embracing knowledge from another species. "I see," he said slowly. "So my role is teaching her about humans, our ways, and helping her make wise decisions in the future." "Yes," said Queen Lyria, "and more than that. You will also help her appreciate the diversity of life, the complexity of interstellar diplomacy, and the value of curiosity. She is exceptionally gifted, but she has lived in isolation. Your guidance will prepare her to lead." Ethan felt a spark of excitement. This was more than a ceremonial duty. He could truly make a difference for Zarathis, for Earth, and for the young princess. "And if I refuse?" he asked cautiously. Queen Lyria's expression remained calm, almost kind. "You have the choice, Ethan." But refusing would not stop the pact from existing. The princess would still need guidance. "I believe that humans, with their unique perspective and creativity, are best suited to help her. You were chosen not by chance, but by your potential." Ethan considered her words. He had always believed humans were capable of incredible things. Perhaps this was his chance to prove that to an entire alien civilization. "I will do it," he said finally. "I will help your princess." Queen Lyria smiled, relief and pride in her gaze. "Thank you, Ethan." "That is all I ask. Come, you must meet her. She is waiting." Ethan followed her through the halls, each turn revealing more wonders. Gardens floated in midair, filled with plants that glowed softly. Streams of water defied gravity, curling around transparent towers. He marveled at how natural beauty and advanced technology coexisted so harmoniously. Finally, they reached a chamber unlike any Ethan had seen. It was filled with soft light that seemed to dance across the walls. In the center stood a young girl, no older than 10, with bright eyes and an inquisitive expression. Her hair shimmered like the queen's robes, and her movements were precise, almost as if she were practicing some form of dance. "Princess Alira," Queen Lyria said softly, "this is Ethan from Earth. He will be your mentor during his stay." Alira tilted her head, studying Ethan intently. "A human?" she asked, her voice curious and direct. "I have never met one before." Ethan smiled. "Yes, I am human." "And I am very pleased to meet you, Princess." Alira's eyes sparkled. "I hope you are clever then. My lessons are not easy. If you cannot keep up, you will fail." Ethan chuckled. "I will try my best." The princess's gaze softened slightly. "Good, I like someone who tries." Queen Lyria stepped back, giving Ethan space. "I will leave you to get acquainted. Ethan, remember, this is the beginning of a partnership. You will learn from each other, and together you will prepare for the future." As the queen departed, Ethan felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. He knelt slightly to meet Alira at eye level. "Shall we begin?" he asked gently. Alira's smile was faint but genuine. "Yes, let us begin." The first lesson was simple. Ethan taught Alira about the Earth, showing her pictures, videos, and stories of humans. Alira was fascinated by the diversity of life, the variety of cultures, and the creativity of human inventions. In return, she shared stories of Zarathis, history, its floating cities, and the wonders hidden in its forests. Hours passed like minutes. Ethan realized that the princess was not only intelligent but deeply curious. Her questions were sharp, her observations insightful. He found himself learning from her as much as she learned from him. By the end of the day, Ethan felt a strange sense of satisfaction. What had begun as a shocking revelation, a forced ceremonial marriage, was becoming an opportunity to create something extraordinary. He would guide the princess, yes, but in doing so, he would help both their worlds understand each other better. As the sun set over Zarathis, painting the floating cities in hues of gold and purple, Ethan looked out at the horizon. The journey ahead would be challenging, filled with unknowns and misunderstandings. But he also knew that humans had a unique ability to adapt, to learn, and to inspire. And perhaps, just perhaps, this unexpected mission would show the galaxy the best of humanity. The morning sunlight spilled into the chambers of the floating palace, casting soft, golden light across the polished floors. Ethan awoke with a sense of anticipation. Today was different. He had spent the previous day meeting Princess Alira and witnessing her remarkable mind, but he still didn't fully understand the depth of the ancient pact that had brought him here. Queen Lyria had asked him to join her for breakfast in the main hall. The hall was circular, with a transparent ceiling that revealed the sky above. Floating platforms served as chairs and tables, adjusting automatically to the weight and position of whoever used them. Light sparkled from the walls, reflecting softly on Ethan's face. "Good morning, Ethan," Queen Lyria greeted him. Her voice carried calm authority, yet there was warmth in it. "I trust your first day with the princess was enlightening." Ethan smiled, pouring himself a cup of a fragrant liquid that tasted like a blend of honey and citrus. "Yes, your majesty, she is brilliant, and she asks questions I have never even considered before." Queen Lyria chuckled softly. "She is meant to be a leader, but her upbringing has been sheltered. She knows Zarathis well, but not the world beyond our skies. That is where you come in. You are her bridge to understanding humanity and the galaxy." Ethan took a sip, still absorbing her words. "I understand that part, but I want to know more about the pact itself. Why me? Why a human?" The queen's eyes softened, and she gestured for him to follow. They walked along a corridor lined with intricate murals depicting Zarathis' history. Each mural seemed alive, as if the stories were moving before their eyes. "The pact," she began, "is older than your species' first interstellar flight. It was created when our people foresaw a future where contact with other civilizations would be necessary. We needed guidance to ensure that our leaders could act wisely and fairly. That guidance, the prophecy said, would come from a human." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "A human? That seems specific." Queen Lyria nodded. "It is. Humans are remarkable in your creativity, your adaptability, and your empathy. These traits are what our ancestors sought. They believed that a human mentor would help the princess understand not only Zarathis, but also the larger universe, its wonders, dangers, and endless possibilities." They entered a chamber filled with holographic projections. The images shifted, showing ancient Zarathians studying stars, meeting with other alien civilizations, and creating tools and machines far beyond what Ethan had ever imagined. He felt a thrill of excitement. The history of Zarathis was both inspiring and humbling. "You see," Queen Lyria continued, "the pact is symbolic as well as practical. It is not a marriage of love, but of responsibility. It binds you to the princess to guide her. Through your teachings, she will learn about the value of curiosity, cooperation, and human insight. These lessons will prepare her to lead not just Zarathis, but to collaborate with civilizations across the stars." Ethan leaned forward, intrigued. "And the people of Zarathis, how do they feel about a human guiding their princess?" "Their reactions vary," the queen admitted. "Some are wary, they do not yet understand your potential, but as they witness your dedication, your patience, and your creativity, they will see the value humans can offer." Ethan nodded slowly. "So it is a challenge of trust as much as teaching." Queen Lyria smiled. "Precisely. And I believe you are up to the task." Later that morning, Ethan was led to a library unlike any he had seen. Books floated freely in the air, their pages turning with gentle motions, glowing faintly as if alive. Holographic diagrams hovered nearby, showing complex alien technologies and their functions. The library seemed to stretch infinitely, a symbol of knowledge preserved over millennia. Here, he met the princess again. Alira was perched on a floating platform, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Ah, you came," she said, her tone both excited and challenging. "Today we study Earth, yes, I want to know everything." Ethan chuckled. "Everything might be too much, but we can start with what matters most." He floated closer, sitting cross-legged on a nearby platform. "Let's talk about your world and mine. You already know about Zarathis. I will show you Earth, its people, its cultures, its inventions, and the way humans think." Alira's eyes sparkled. "And you will teach me what humans value?" "Yes," Ethan said. "Humans value curiosity, creativity, compassion, and learning from mistakes. We make errors, yes, but we also grow from them. That is what makes us strong." The princess tilted her head. "And what makes Zarathis strong?" Queen Lyria, observing from a distance, joined in. "Wisdom, foresight, and careful planning. And now, Ethan, humans and Zarathians can learn from each other. That is why your role is so important." The lessons began gently. Ethan showed Alira images of Earth cities, forests, oceans, and mountains. He told stories of human achievements, how they built bridges, traveled to the moon, and created works of art and music that expressed emotion and thought. Alira listened intently, asking thoughtful questions. "Why do humans fight sometimes?" she asked, her eyes curious rather than accusatory. Ethan hesitated, then replied honestly, "We sometimes disagree or misunderstand one another, but we try to solve problems with discussion, innovation, and collaboration. And most of all, we learn from our mistakes. Alira nodded slowly, absorbing the idea. So humans are clever but also fallible. Interesting. Throughout the day, Ethan also learned from the princess. She demonstrated advanced telepathic abilities, communicating without words and solving puzzles with logic that sometimes left Ethan stumped. She challenged him to think in new ways, combining human reasoning with alien insight. By mid-afternoon, Ethan realized he had gained more than Alira. He understood Zarathas in a new way, its traditions, its values, and the foresight that had preserved their civilization. This bond, forged in mutual curiosity and respect, was beginning to create a bridge between their worlds. During a break, they walked along the palace gardens. Flowers with translucent petals shimmered in the light, and small, winged creatures hovered around, curious about their visitors. Alira pointed to a tree with branches that curled and shifted like liquid. "On Earth, trees do not move like this," she said, smiling. Ethan laughed. "No, they stay in one place, but they still have their own kind of life, their own rhythm. All creatures, no matter where they are, find ways to survive and grow." Alira's eyes reflected the sunlight as she studied him. "You think humans and Zarathians can work together?" "I do," Ethan said firmly. "I believe that by learning from each other, we can create something greater than either of us alone." The princess nodded thoughtfully. "Then I will try my best to learn from you, human, and maybe you will learn from me as well." Ethan smiled. "I already am." As the day went on, the lessons grew more complex. Ethan introduced basic earth science, explaining concepts like gravity, energy, and ecology in simple ways. Alira absorbed the ideas quickly, connecting them to what she knew about her own world. She even began designing small experiments, testing principles that were new to her but familiar to Ethan. Queen Lyria watched silently from the observation deck. She felt a sense of pride. The pact, though old and misunderstood by many, was unfolding exactly as intended. A human mentor was guiding the princess, not with authority but with patience and respect. The seeds of understanding between their worlds were beginning to grow. By evening, Ethan was exhausted but exhilarated. He had spent the day teaching, learning, and navigating the delicate balance between human and Zarathian cultures. Alira, though young, had challenged him to think differently, to question assumptions, and to find new ways of explaining complex ideas. Before retiring for the night, Ethan reflected on what he had learned. The pact was more than a tradition, it was a philosophy. It emphasized growth, understanding, and cooperation. By accepting it, he was not only helping the princess, but also demonstrating the best qualities of humanity: curiosity, creativity, and empathy. He looked out the window at the floating cities, glowing softly against the twilight sky. A sense of purpose filled him. The journey ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, misunderstandings, and moments of doubt. But he also knew that with patience, open-mindedness, and a willingness to learn, humans and Zarathians could achieve something extraordinary together. As he drifted to sleep, Ethan felt a quiet determination. Tomorrow he would continue guiding the princess, exploring the wonders of Zarathas, and preparing for the future that the pact promised. And for the first time since arriving on this alien world, he felt a deep sense of belonging, not just as a visitor, but as a teacher, a learner, and a bridge between two civilizations. The morning sun filtered through the translucent walls of the palace, painting the chambers in soft shades of gold and green. Ethan woke to the familiar hum of Zarathas, a melody of wind, water, and the soft chatter of creatures moving in the gardens outside. Today, he felt a renewed energy. His time with Princess Alira had already begun to change him. Her curiosity, intelligence, and playful spirit made every lesson a challenge and a joy. As he walked toward the library, floating platforms adjusted beneath his feet, guiding him along the winding corridors. Alira was already there, perched on a platform in midair, her legs swinging gently as she waited. "Good morning, human," she said, her tone teasing but affectionate. "I have been thinking about our lessons from yesterday. Today I want something different, not stories. Not pictures, I want games." Ethan raised an eyebrow, smiling. "Games? What kind of games?" "Logic games, puzzles, challenges that will make us think together. I want to see if you are clever enough to teach me properly." Her eyes sparkled with excitement. Ethan laughed softly. "Very well, but remember, Princess, I might surprise you." The first game involved a series of floating orbs, each glowing with different colors. Ethan explained that each orb represented a concept from Earth, like gravity, energy, or cooperation, and Alira had to arrange them in a logical order to demonstrate how these concepts connected. Alira's brow furrowed in concentration. She moved the orbs with precision, testing combinations, discarding what didn't fit, and refining her choices. Ethan watched in amazement. Not only was she fast and intelligent, but she also approached problems creatively, combining logic with intuition in a way he had never seen before. "You are learning quickly," Ethan said after she completed the puzzle. Alira tilted her head. "I am learning from you." "But tell me, human, do you think you are learning from me?" Ethan smiled. "More than you know. You make me think differently. You remind me that there are always multiple ways to understand a problem." Their morning continued with exercises in observation and reasoning. Ethan introduced simple Earth-based scientific principles and encouraged Alira to experiment, combining them with her own knowledge of Zarathis. Together, they created floating water spheres that moved in patterns dictated by their commands, blending human physics with Zarathian energy flow. As they worked, Ethan noticed something remarkable. The princess not only absorbed knowledge but also connected it to her own experiences. She could take a simple principle from Earth and see its applications in her world almost immediately. "You see," Alira said, "your way of thinking is different. It is slower, maybe, but careful. It takes time. My way is faster, but sometimes I miss small details. Together, we can make something better." Ethan nodded. "Exactly, that is why we work together. Humans and Zarathians both have strengths. By combining them, we can achieve more than either alone." After a brief rest, Queen Lyria arrived to observe their progress. She floated gracefully into the chamber, her presence calm yet commanding. "Good work, both of you," she said, smiling. "It is wonderful to see the princess so engaged, and to see you, Ethan, teaching with patience and creativity. This is exactly what the pact intended." Ethan bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. Alira makes it easy to teach. She is exceptionally curious and intelligent." The queen's eyes softened. "Indeed she is, but curiosity must be guided or it can become overwhelming. That is why your role is so important. You provide balance. You show her how to explore ideas carefully, to think beyond immediate impressions." Alira grinned. "I am careful." "Mostly," she giggled, and Ethan laughed along with her. After breakfast, they moved to the gardens. The floating platforms glided over streams of shimmering water. Strange, colorful creatures hovered nearby, their wings catching the sunlight. Alira paused, pointing at a plant that seemed to hum softly. "This plant," she said, "responds to sound. Can humans do that too?" Ethan nodded. "We have technology that can interact with plants or machines using sound or vibrations, but nothing quite like this naturally. Your world has many wonders I have never seen before." Alira's eyes sparkled with pride. "Yes, but humans have wonders too. I want to understand them all. Show me more." So Ethan taught her about Earth's inventions, simple machines, bridges, telescopes, and computers. He explained how humans used observation, experimentation, and imagination to create solutions for their problems. Alira listened intently, asking questions that challenged his explanations. "Why do humans need machines?" she asked. "Because we are limited physically," Ethan explained. "Machines extend our abilities. They allow us to build, explore, and communicate in ways we otherwise could not." Alira considered this. "Interesting. On Zarathis, we rely more on energy manipulation and mental focus. But machines are helpful. I think I understand." Their lessons were not all structured. They also played imaginative games, combining elements of Earth and Zarathis. They designed floating cities together, tested theoretical technologies, and even created small interactive stories where humans and Zarathians collaborated to solve imaginary problems. Throughout these activities, Ethan noticed how much Alira trusted him. She asked questions openly, shared her thoughts freely, and even admitted when she did not understand something. That trust was precious, and he realized it was the foundation for all learning and cooperation. By afternoon, Ethan decided to introduce a challenge of his own. He created a puzzle that required both human logic and Zarathian intuition. Floating spheres represented problems from both worlds. Ethan explained the rules. They had to arrange the spheres so that solutions from Earth and Zarathis complemented each other. Alira's eyes lit up. "Ah, a real challenge." They worked together for hours, moving the spheres, testing ideas, and refining their approach. Several times they failed, but each failure was a lesson. Ethan encouraged her to see mistakes as opportunities, and Alira gradually adopted the same mindset. You see, Ethan said during a break, failure is not bad. It teaches us what does not work so we can find what does. Humans learn most from trying and failing. Alira smiled. Then I will fail many times and learn many times. Queen Lyria, observing from a distance, smiled at their interaction. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The princess was growing not just in knowledge, but in wisdom, patience, and humility. And Ethan, through his guidance, was teaching Zarathis something else entirely: the human capacity for curiosity, resilience, and creativity. As the day progressed, Ethan noticed the princess asking questions that were not just about humans or Zarathians, but about the universe itself. She wanted to understand why stars shone, how life began on different planets, and what it meant to lead wisely. Her curiosity was limitless, and Ethan found himself inspired by her eagerness. "Do you think humans can explore the stars one day?" she asked, her eyes wide. Ethan smiled. "Yes, we already have begun, and we will go further, but exploration is not just about traveling. It is about understanding, learning, and respecting the worlds we visit. That is what makes humans special." Alira nodded thoughtfully. "Then I will learn to be a leader who understands, who listens, and who respects, with your help, human." The afternoon ended with a quiet walk along the palace terraces. They looked out over the floating cities, watching the streams of light and energy that sustained the world. Ethan felt a sense of peace he had not known before. He was no longer just a visitor. He was a mentor, a guide, and a bridge between civilizations. "Tomorrow," Alira said softly, "we should try a new game, one that uses both my mind and yours, something that will challenge us even more." Ethan nodded. "Agreed. And I look forward to it. Every day we learn something new from each other. That is the real game." As the sun set over Zarathis, casting long, golden shadows across the floating gardens, Ethan reflected on the journey so far. The pact, once a confusing and shocking obligation, was becoming a path of discovery and growth. He was learning as much from the princess as she was from him. Together, they were building a bond of trust, respect, and mutual curiosity that would shape not only her future but the future of both their worlds. By the time night fell, the palace glowed softly with internal lights. Ethan retired to his chambers, his mind buzzing with ideas, puzzles, and questions. He knew the days ahead would bring challenges, but he felt ready. With patience, creativity, and respect, he and Alira could explore the boundaries of knowledge together. He drifted to sleep thinking of floating cities, glowing forests, and a young princess whose mind was sharper than anything he had encountered. In that quiet moment, he realized something profound. The true power of humanity was not in strength or weapons, but in curiosity, compassion, and the ability to inspire others, even across the stars. Tomorrow the lessons would continue, but for now, Ethan allowed himself to feel hope. Hope for Zarathis, hope for Earth, and hope for the bond between two very different worlds. The morning light shimmered over Zarathis, glinting off the floating cities and casting long reflections across the crystal-clear rivers that wound through the forests. Ethan woke feeling a mix of excitement and anticipation. Today would be different. Queen Lyria had arranged a special test, a challenge designed to see how well he and Princess Alira could work together. When Ethan entered the palace courtyard, he found Alira already there, her eyes bright with curiosity. She was perched on a floating platform, her posture straight and alert. "Good morning, human," she said with a grin. "Are you ready for today's challenge?" Ethan smiled. "I am. But I have a feeling you might make it more difficult than I expect." Alira laughed. "Of course, that is part of the fun. Are you clever enough to keep up?" Queen Lyria arrived shortly afterward. "Today's challenge is not a simple puzzle or game," she explained. "It is a simulation designed to test problem-solving, creativity, and cooperation. You will work together to solve a series of tasks that combine human logic and Zarathian intuition. Success will show your ability to guide the princess effectively and to teach her how to think critically." Ethan nodded. "Understood. We will do our best." The simulation chamber was enormous, a vast dome with shifting holographic landscapes. One moment it resembled a dense forest filled with floating trees and glowing plants. The next it transformed into a cityscape suspended in midair, with bridges and towers of light. Alira's eyes widened in awe. "Impressive," she said softly. "It feels real." Ethan studied the chamber. It's designed to challenge both our minds, he said. We'll need to observe, plan, and test ideas. Remember, the goal is not speed, it's understanding and cooperation. The first task appeared as a floating puzzle in the center of the chamber. Holographic orbs floated above a glowing platform. Each orb represented a problem, and they had to arrange them in the correct sequence to unlock the next stage. Alira moved quickly, her hands gliding through the air as she rearranged the orbs with precision. Ethan, meanwhile, considered the logic behind the arrangement, noticing patterns that Alira had missed. Try combining the blue and green orbs first, he suggested. They complement each other in ways that match both human and Zorathian principles. Alira's eyes lit up. Ah, that makes sense. She adjusted the orbs and the puzzle clicked into place. A soft chime echoed through the chamber and the next task appeared. This one was more complex, a floating maze that shifted and changed as they moved through it. Ethan and Alira had to navigate the maze while solving smaller puzzles embedded along the path. Communication was key. Left here, Ethan said. No, wait, the path shifts if we step on the wrong orb. Step carefully. Alira nodded, moving with grace and precision. Your timing is slow, human. We need to move together, not separately. Ethan laughed. I will try to keep up. They proceeded through the maze, solving problems together. Sometimes Alira's intuition led them in the right direction. Other times, Ethan's careful reasoning corrected their mistakes. With each challenge, their partnership strengthened. They learned to anticipate each other's moves, to combine human logic with Zorathian insight. After several hours, the maze ended, and they entered the final task. It was a challenge of creativity. They were given a simulated city facing a hypothetical problem, and they had to find a solution using the resources provided in the simulation. Ethan studied the floating tools and energy sources carefully. We can use these energy spheres to stabilize the floating towers, he suggested, but we must arrange them in a specific pattern that balances energy flow. Alira examined the city from above, her eyes scanning every detail. We also need to think about the citizens. They move differently than humans. If we place the spheres incorrectly, it will cause confusion. Let's combine your plan with my observations. Working together, they adjusted the spheres, tested the patterns, and refined their solution. After several attempts, the city stabilized. The simulation projected a soft glow of success, and a melodic chime echoed through the chamber. Alira jumped up, her excitement clear. We did it, Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. Yes, we did, together. Queen Lyria appeared, her eyes full of pride. Excellent work, both of you. This exercise shows that you are learning from each other, combining your strengths to solve complex problems. Ethan, your human perspective has guided the princess, and Alira, your intuition and creativity have enriched the process. This is exactly what the pact intended. Alira beamed. I am learning so much, human, and I like learning from you. You make everything interesting. Ethan nodded. And you make me think in ways I never thought possible. You challenge me, princess, and I appreciate that. After the simulation, they rested in the palace gardens. Ethan noticed that the challenges of the day had taught him something important: patience. Humans often rely on logic and planning, but sometimes flexibility and intuition, like Alira's, are equally valuable. He realized that being a mentor did not mean only teaching. It also meant learning from the one you guide. As they sat near a fountain of floating water spheres, Alira turned to him. Tomorrow, I want a new challenge, one that is even harder, something that tests both our minds and our hearts. Ethan chuckled. I will do my best. But tell me, princess, what does it mean to test our hearts? Alira thought for a moment. To see if we understand each other. To see if we can work together even when things are difficult or confusing. Today was easy because we trusted each other. Tomorrow, maybe it will be harder. Ethan nodded thoughtfully. Then we will be ready. Trust and cooperation are more important than any puzzle or challenge. Later in the afternoon, Ethan was called to a council meeting with Queen Lyria and several advisors. They were curious about his teaching methods and wanted to ensure that the princess was learning effectively. Ethan explained the exercises they had completed, highlighting how each challenge combined human reasoning with Zorathian intuition. The council members listened carefully, asking questions and offering suggestions. Ethan realized that part of his role was also diplomatic. He needed to demonstrate the value of humans not only to Alira, but to the entire civilization. Your methods are unusual, one advisor said, but the results are clear. The princess is engaged, motivated, and learning. Perhaps humans have a perspective we have not considered before. Ethan smiled. That is the hope. Humans are not perfect, but we are curious, adaptable, and creative. These qualities can help the princess and Zarathas prepare for the future. Queen Lyria nodded approvingly. Ethan, you are showing all of Zarathas the potential of human insight. You are not only guiding the princess, but also inspiring confidence in our people. That is the true purpose of the pact. Ethan felt a surge of pride. He had come to Zarathas expecting a ceremonial role, something symbolic. Instead, he was shaping the future of a civilization and building a bond that might last for generations. That evening, Ethan returned to the princess for a final exercise of the day. They sat in a quiet room overlooking the floating cities. The air was calm, filled with the soft hum of energy streams that sustained the city. Today was good, Ethan said. You did very well. Alira tilted her head. It was not just me. You helped me, human. We succeeded together. Ethan smiled. Yes, together. That is the most important lesson. Success comes not from working alone, but from collaboration. Alira considered this. Then the pact is not just about me learning from you, it is about both of us learning from each other. Ethan nodded. Exactly, that is why it is so powerful. It is not a one-way path. It is a bridge between humans and Zarathians built on trust, curiosity, and respect. The princess smiled. Then tomorrow we will build the bridge even stronger. As night fell over Zarathas, Ethan reflected on the day. He had faced challenges, puzzles, and simulations designed to test their cooperation. But he realized the true challenge was not the exercises themselves. It was understanding, respecting, and learning from a mind so different from his own. He thought of Alira's curiosity, her creativity, and her determination. He thought of Queen Lyria's wisdom and the trust she had placed in him. And he thought of humanity, the qualities that had brought him here: curiosity, resilience, and the ability to inspire and learn. The journey was far from over. There would be more challenges, more lessons, and more opportunities to grow, but Ethan felt ready. With patience, collaboration, and an open mind, he could guide the princess, honor the pact, and demonstrate the true potential of humanity to an alien civilization. And for the first time since his arrival, he felt that he was not just fulfilling a duty. He was part of something greater, a story that would shape the future of both Earth and Zarathas. The morning sun rose over Zarathas, spilling light across the floating cities and sparkling forests. Ethan felt a quiet sense of anticipation as he walked toward the palace gardens. Today marked the final stage of his guidance with Princess Alira, a day that would showcase everything they had learned together. Alira was already waiting, perched on her favorite floating platform, her eyes bright and focused. "Good morning, human," she said, her tone serious but excited. "Today is important. Are you ready?" Ethan smiled. "I am, but so are you, princess. You have learned so much already, and you have taught me more than you know." Alira's eyes softened. "Then let us show everyone what we can do together." Queen Lyria joined them, accompanied by the council and several citizens who had observed Ethan and Alira's progress. The palace courtyard had been transformed into a demonstration space, filled with holographic displays, floating platforms, and interactive simulations. It was a perfect place to test the princess's skills and highlight the partnership between human and Zarathian thinking. "The purpose of today," Queen Lyria announced, "is to see how well the princess can apply her knowledge, creativity, and leadership. Ethan has been her guide, and together they have explored new ways to think, solve problems, and innovate. Today, they will demonstrate the potential of collaboration between our worlds." Ethan felt a surge of pride. He had come to Zarathas expecting a ceremonial duty, but it had become so much more. Today, he and Alira would show the galaxy the power of curiosity, cooperation, and understanding. The first task was a complex simulation, a model of a floating city facing multiple challenges, from energy distribution to infrastructure and citizen coordination. Ethan and Alira worked side by side, analyzing the problems and designing solutions. "Let's start with the energy cores," Ethan suggested. "We need to balance them so the city remains stable while allowing movement for all the citizens." Alira nodded, her hands moving gracefully through the air. "We also need to consider the flow of information. If we adjust the cores without coordinating communication, confusion will spread. Let's combine our ideas. Together, they arranged the energy spheres, connected the communication networks, and tested their system. The city stabilized perfectly. Holographic citizens moved smoothly through the simulation, demonstrating harmony between human planning and Zorathian intuition. Queen Lyria watched, her eyes shining with pride. Excellent! You have applied both human and Zorathian principles to create a solution that neither of our civilizations could achieve alone. The next task was even more ambitious. They were given a hypothetical scenario, where a new settlement needed to be designed for an unexplored region of Zorathis. Ethan and Alira had to create a plan that balanced natural preservation, resource management, and community well-being. Ethan suggested, we should study the terrain first. Use your intuition to map the safest and most sustainable areas, and then I will suggest structures and energy systems that support life efficiently. Alira focused, her eyes glowing faintly as she scanned the holographic landscape. This area is rich in natural energy flows. We can build small, adaptive structures that blend with the environment. Your machines can help maintain stability. Step by step, they combined their knowledge, creating a settlement that was innovative, efficient, and beautiful. The council members leaned forward, murmuring in admiration at the seamless integration of human ingenuity and Zorathian philosophy. You have exceeded my expectations, Queen Lyria said quietly to Ethan, and you have guided the princess with wisdom, patience, and respect. Alira turned to Ethan, her eyes bright. We did it together, human. I could not have done this alone. Ethan smiled. And I could not have done it without you, princess. This is what the pact is truly about, working together, learning from each other, and creating something greater than either of us alone. The final task of the day was symbolic. Ethan and Alira were asked to present a vision for the future, how humans and Zorathians could continue to collaborate and share knowledge across the stars. Using the palace's holographic system, they designed a visual representation of a shared galaxy, with human and Zorathian settlements connected by streams of energy, communication, and trade. Alira spoke confidently. Our worlds are different, but that difference is our strength. By combining our ideas, our creativity, and our understanding, we can achieve more than we could ever do alone. This is the path to a brighter future. Ethan added, humans are curious, adaptable, and compassionate. Zorathians are wise, intuitive, and careful. Together, we can explore, learn, and grow in ways that honor both our cultures. This is just the beginning. The crowd erupted in applause, a mixture of humans, Zorathians, and observers from other allied worlds. They had witnessed not only the success of the tasks, but also the proof that humans could contribute positively to interstellar cooperation. Queen Lyria approached Ethan and Alira, her smile wide. Today, you have shown all of Zorathis the value of unity, curiosity, and learning. Ethan, you have honored the pact in ways that go beyond expectation. And Alira, you have demonstrated wisdom, creativity, and courage. Together, you have created a vision that will guide our civilizations for years to come. Alira turned to Ethan, her voice filled with gratitude. Thank you for everything, human. You have taught me more than I could have imagined, and you have believed in me when I doubted myself. Ethan placed a hand gently on her shoulder. And you have taught me just as much, princess. You have reminded me that intelligence and creativity can take many forms. You have shown me the power of curiosity and the joy of learning together. After the celebration, Ethan spent a quiet moment walking through the palace gardens. He looked at the floating cities, the glowing plants, and the streams of energy that sustained life on Zorathis. He thought about how far he and Alira had come, from a shocking revelation about a pact to a deep bond built on trust, respect, and collaboration. He realized that the story of humanity was reflected in every step of their journey. Humans were curious, adaptable, and capable of creating connections where none existed before. That was the true lesson he had shared with Zorathis, and the lesson he had learned in return. That evening, Queen Lyria summoned Ethan for a private conversation. They stood on a balcony overlooking the floating city, the stars beginning to twinkle above. You have fulfilled your role beyond what I could have hoped, she said. The princess is ready. She has learned from you, but more importantly, she has learned to trust, to think creatively, and to value other perspectives. You have given her a gift that will last her entire life. Ethan nodded. It has been an honor, Your Majesty. I came expecting a duty. Instead, I found a partnership and a friendship that I will never forget. Queen Lyria's eyes softened. Zarathis is fortunate to have met humanity, and humanity is fortunate to have people like you who carry curiosity, courage, and compassion. The pact was always meant to show that two worlds could learn from each other, and today you have proven that. Ethan smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. I am proud to have played a part in that, and I hope this is only the beginning of our collaboration. The next morning, it was time for Ethan to prepare for his return to Earth. Princess Alira approached him, her eyes reflecting both excitement and sadness. You will return to your world, she said softly, but our work is not over. I will continue learning, and I will carry your lessons with me. You have shown me how to think, how to explore, and how to understand others. That is the greatest gift a mentor can give. Ethan knelt slightly to meet her at eye level. And you have given me a gift as well, Princess. You have shown me the brilliance of Zarathis, the power of imagination, and the joy of learning together. I will carry your lessons with me too. They embraced briefly, a gesture of trust and respect rather than affection. It symbolized the bond between two civilizations, strengthened through curiosity, collaboration, and understanding. Queen Lyria watched silently, pride shining in her eyes. This is not an ending, she said softly. It is the beginning of a new chapter for both our worlds. Ethan stepped onto the shuttle, ready to return to Earth. As he looked back at the palace, he saw Princess Alira waving, her smile bright and confident. He felt a sense of hope and inspiration. Humanity had made a difference, not through strength or conquest, but through curiosity, guidance, and the willingness to learn. The shuttle lifted off, gliding smoothly through the air, past the floating gardens, the towers of light, and the streams of energy that powered Zarathis. Ethan thought about the pact, about the lessons, and about the bond he had formed. He realized that humans had the ability to inspire, teach, and build bridges across the stars. That was their true strength. As the planet receded in the distance, Ethan felt a quiet pride. He had come to Zarathis expecting a duty. Instead, he had found a partnership, a purpose, and proof that humans could make a positive impact across the galaxy. The stars stretched out before him, infinite and bright, and Ethan knew that this was just the beginning. Humans and Zarathians would continue to learn from each other, to explore together, and to build a future filled with curiosity, respect, and unity. And in that moment, Ethan understood something profound. Even in an unexpected situation, humans had the power to shine, to inspire, and to leave a legacy that could span worlds. The journey had started with a surprise, a misunderstanding, and a pact. But it ended with hope, friendship, and the promise of a united future. Proof that humanity, guided by curiosity and compassion, could truly make a difference in the galaxy.